Hello and welcome out there in Facebook Landia, YouTube Landia, all the social media Landias. Come here for the first ever Astromed Yoga Astrology Clinic, where we will go over some card reading for the upcoming energies and transits, as well as do a live chart reading for these same transits, and if there are any engaged viewers out there during the time of this live, maybe one lucky winner will get a free live reading. So let's get started with the cards. So a lot of people don't know that tarot cards actually come from the playing cards. Wow, that's crazy that card showed up again as it fell out of the deck earlier. So yeah, the playing cards actually come from ancient Egypt, whereas the tarot cards came later in Europe. So there is a strong correspondence between them. There has been some inversion, as we might expect with any of the major divination systems, anything that gives humans power to connect with their higher spirit and higher self and see what the stars have for them. So, interesting fact for those of you who might already know and those who don't, the tarot and the cards are related to astrology. The planets, the signs, they all have their own correspondences with each other. So, hi Tanya, thanks for tuning in. First card, 4 of spades, 8 of diamonds, 3 of clubs, and 9 of diamonds. All right, so we got some pentacles in the tarot deck associated with diamonds. We have the 3, past, present, and future. And the final card for summary. So, nice. Tanya, if you are the one for the reading today, let me know. We can get you started here in a couple of minutes. But we have here a 9-card spread of my own design, fused from a couple of different schools. But basically, we have the main spread with the first 5 cards, and then the sort of supplemental going into deeper detail with the last 4. So we have subject, challenge, guidance, and results based on current thoughts and circumstances. That's the overall descriptor, and it describes and goes deeper into the first 5 cards. All right, Tanya, so it is you. Let's have you just hang in there until we're done with this reading and we can do your chart live. Do me a favor and send me your chart if you can in Messenger, and that will help speed up the process a little bit. So, and then here on the last 4 cards, we have past, present, future, and the ultimate result of the current thoughts and circumstances. So this is the Eclipse reading. So with the 4 of spades, we're talking about, in a tarot equivalency, we're talking about the 4 of staffs. And then we have the 8 of diamonds as 8 of pentacles, 3 of clubs as 3 of swords, and then the 9 of diamonds as 9 of pentacles, and finally 5 of hearts as 5 of clubs. So let's start first with the 4 of wands as the subject. So the 4 of wands as the subject indicates peace and security. So this is what this Virgo eclipse is wanting us to find and establish, right? We're having to take stock like Virgo does, right? Finding a place for everything and everything in its place, and create that sense of organized stability that Virgo wants to bring into our lives, right? So then we have in the challenge position, the 8 of diamonds or the 8 of pentacles. And so the 8 of pentacles talks about hard work and craftsmanship and developing new skills, right? So we have to continue doing the work that we've been doing. We have to continue to show up and bring the due diligence. And that's probably harder than ever during eclipse season, as it usually is. So this is what might be challenged during these topsy-turvy eclipse energies, is staying with the consistency and our craft And yes, Tanya, you can send the transits too. That would be great. So now for the guidance card, we have the Three of Swords. So this is an interesting position. This is actually my favorite position of the reads because I'm an action-oriented person. And so it's like, okay, this is what you do. This is the action you can take to get the results that you're hopefully looking for. So with the Three of Swords in the guidance position, some of you who are familiar with Tarot might be familiar with the Three of Swords, often shown as a picture of three swords moving through a heart. So it can often be associated with heartbreak and betrayal and endings. So here in the guidance position, it's telling us that we need to end. We need to end something. We need to let go of whatever thing is kind of taking our heart hostage and holding us back from the abundance and the prosperity that we're really looking for in the future. So that Nine of Diamonds card or Nine of Pentacles card in the future is indicating that, right? So with the Three of Swords, just to recap, right, to get with clarity, we're looking for self-expression. And even if it's expressing disappointment, being true to yourself, facing our pain head on. We can see this as a betrayal, but it's a sign that we are being encouraged to move beyond whatever wants to betray us, right? If it's something is bringing that level of betrayal, it's really showing us that we're not in alignment. It's not in alignment with us, and it's time for us to move on. So the Nine of Diamonds in the results position, really beautiful position. I mean, it just indicates, some prosperity in the future. So let's, look at that Five of Cups as well in the future, right? Because it summarizes everything. It summarizes the whole reading. So when we're talking about Five of Cups in the future position, as we can call this future position, we can see that maybe there's some errors from the past that could cause a regretful situation. And if we're ready to repair any damage that those errors have caused, we can find self-forgiveness, right? With that Five of Cups, finding the optimism, the silver lining in the cloud, right? So let's go a little bit more into past, present, and future with the Queen of Spades, aka the Queen of Staffs, and the Six of Cups or the Six of Hearts, and then the King of Clubs or King of Swords. So with the Queen of Staffs in the past position, patience is one of the virtues that we need to draw upon, and it has helped us to create comfortable living situations in our social environment, in our surroundings. This ability to make wise decisions and think soundly will help us in the future. So again, it's calling in that Virgo energy of discernment and really seeing where our wisdom in the past has brought fruits that we can continue to, not mine, but cultivate for the future. So now we have the Six of Hearts or Six of Cups in the present position. So with this card, it indicates that there's a reward as a result of our past actions that will come to us presently. Making a new friend or strengthening a relationship can be a main access to this and giving us great sense of commonality. So there is something about having a community. It doesn't have to necessarily be, a big community, but even just one or two people who we can connect with that we're currently connecting with now could lead us to this prosperous future that we're all looking for. So King of Swords, finally in the future position. So there is an opposition to our ultimate goals. Guile and superior intellect will lead us past this possibly destructive barrier where we can find fulfillment in organizing those around us and really, as a leader, claiming our own leadership with this card. And let's just cover up that Four of Cups in the future position as well. The summary position I'm reading as future positions. So there could be long delays before we achieve our goals, but it's important for us to not lose faith and keep our eyes facing forward, making our plans and not losing sight of the exciting rewards that we desire. So we want to stay stable in our heart, with our passions, with our commitment for is stability, it's earth, it's practicality, even though this is a water suit with the hearts and cups. So that's our reading for the cards for today. Let's take a look at the transits as I peek here with my face and say hello. Hello. Hi. So, still getting used to all the tech. I don't do a lot of Facebook Lives. That's really close. I'm not a super huge fan of getting over all of the stuff to put my image out there, but who cares? It's not about me. It's about the stars and the stories that we can interpret from them, right? And how we can use that information to make our lives better. So, Tanya, we have a reading for you. So excited that you tuned in and are the lucky winner for today. We will stay towards the end. So if you're, rewatching this or tuned in, hang out till the end. We're also going to do a transit reading for the current transits. But for right now, we're going to use Tanya Marie's chart. And I wonder if there's any way for me to share that while I'm here. I don't even know if I can. Let's figure something out. Let me see. Give me a second. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I can just post it. Well, for now, I'm just going to read the chart as I see it. So, Tanya, did you have a particular question? Let me know. Otherwise, I'm just going to read what I see. So we have here, let me just check into the chart. So Moon in Leo, 0 degrees, Ascendant in Sagittarius, and Sun in Pisces, right? Those are the top three. And yeah, what do we have with the transits? Well, we have Saturn just regressing back into Pisces, right? So that's definitely going to affect the Sun at 20 degrees Pisces. So whatever building that you've been doing over the past few months, it might feel like there's a little bit of a delay. It might feel like you're having to revisit things that you already thought were done, particularly with regards to structure. Now, Saturn in Pisces is quite a taskmaster. Generally, Saturn is that, right? But with Pisces, the task mastery is with boundaries, right? Saturn itself rules boundaries and Pisces is boundlessness. So it's kind of the total opposition of these two energies where Pisces just wants to dissolve and Saturn just wants to build. And so there is this tug of war, this push and pull between finding the structure in your life and also letting go of the structures that aren't serving you, having to discern between which structures are working for you and which ones aren't. And this Virgo eclipse is absolutely having everything to do with bringing all that up to the surface so you can address it, trim the fat from what needs to be trimmed and build more of what wants to be built. So looking specifically in the Virgo areas, you don't have anything specifically in Virgo except, you do have the midheaven. So that's the career space. So your career is the thing that's most slated to really transform during this eclipse cycle. We of course do also have the South Node. That's in Libra, is it not? Hold on, it's showing, no, that's right. The South Node is currently transiting through Virgo. Your natal South Node is in Libra. So with the South Node transiting through Virgo, passing over your midheaven, the career activations have already been happening. All the work that you've done from the past is bringing manifestations into the present. Now is the time to really get keen with what needs to go and what needs to be carried up that mountain with limited resources, right? Capricorn is all about efficiency. I mean, the earth signs in general really want to see that effectiveness and getting things accomplished. So the Virgo eclipse is encouraging you to really do that, trimming the fat from your career space and focusing on what will really bring you the best results. So just finishing up, let's see what else we've got with the rest of the chart. We do have a Saturn-Uranus conjunction in the first house. This will also indicate that there's some identity shifts showing up, especially with the Saturn-Neptune conjunction that's coming up next year in February, right? They're going to conjunct at 0 degrees Aries, which you have your Neptune nearby, your Jupiter nearby, and your North Node nearby. Neptune will be on your Jupiter, as well as Saturn, off by just 2 degrees with that new conjunction. So this taking place in the sign of your 4th house with your North Node there as well as your Jupiter. Your sense of self really wants to explode and expand with the new ideal that Neptune wants to bring, the dissolving of the old and what's no longer working, with the expression of the ideal of the new, the higher dream that wants to manifest into material reality. But because it's taking place in the 4th house, the house of home and roots and family, how you show up at your home is going to have everything to do with how your career manifests. Of course, that's generally true, but this is especially very true in the sense that Jupiter wants to expand your sense of individuality. Jupiter in Aries was meant in its incarnation to expand into exploration of the self and into pioneering, following your own path, right? The North Node there magnifies it, and this Neptune-Saturn conjunction in that sign of Aries, very close to that Jupiter, is going to show up as a once-in-a-lifetime transit where it's really time to manifest that ideal. And the Virgo eclipse is helping to organize all those things to let you know what can come and what can't. So that is the mini reading for the transits and the eclipse, Tanya. Unless you had any specific questions about what's going on, I will continue to just focus on the eclipse transits and chart and see what we can see in those charts with what's coming up for the next eclipse cycle and then the following 6 months. So Tali, just seeing your question here, can we incorporate some tarot parallels to this transition? Would this be more of a tower or a judgment arcana? So really, really powerful question. Based on the cards that we just went through, here I can pop them in again and show you, right? So we have a 9-card spread, and we don't use the major arcana here with the destiny cards or playing cards, but we have, it's not much of a tarot moment as it is more a stable and steadfast moment, really having to take stock of what we've manifested so far and see what's working, seeing what's not working. In particular, also with the alliances that we have, right? The connections that we have created throughout our lifetime and which ones we can carry into the future to support this big vision where we step up in leadership in our own life, right? That's the King of Clubs or King of Swords in the Tarot. So, yeah, Tanya, my pleasure. Thank you. That was magical. You're always magical. I appreciate it. Magical for magical. You know, Tanya is an incredible human design and just overall marketing genius. So if you have any questions for her about that, feel free to connect with her. And yeah, so let's go into the transits for the eclipse, which I have here. If you just give me a second, I can even post it to the live here. So I'll show you guys. I have it actually in my files. Let's see if they cooperate with me. So I've tried to make this all easier. Yeah, it's in my calendar. I went ahead months and months for all the major aspects, took screenshots of them, and then put the calendar's date in my calendar. And yeah, tried to keep track of all of them. But now let's see if it opens. Okay, yeah, it's actually going to open. So okay, cool. So just bear with me as I get the tech here. So yeah, and I can actually share it to the comments under this live video so that if anybody is curious, they can look along before the eclipse, during the video, or after. Okay, so just bear with me, making the comment right now with this eclipse chart. If only it was where I thought it was. Okay, I know where it is. Just 1 second, everybody. Thanks for hanging in there. Okay. Ooh, actually, I don't think it's letting me post a photo. Let me see. I'll post the photo for the chart afterwards. But okay. So the chart that we have, let's see some major aspects, right? There's a bunch of things that we could talk about, but we'll focus on just a couple since this is just, you know, a brief live. And yeah, I don't want to be talking off anybody's ear and go hoarse with just all the over-talking, oversharing I can do in general. But let's talk about some of the highlights. So Sun and Moon are conjunct in the sign of Virgo. Late degrees Virgo, 29 degrees and 5 minutes. This is our second new moon in the sign of the month, which is a rare occurrence to have 2 new moons in the same sign. So that in itself is calling us to really go deep in the rebirth that the new moon represents with the Virgo energy, right? Excuse me, finding our own purity. Virgo is the sign of the Virgin. It's also the sign of the harvest, you know, where we're taking stock of everything before the harvest season, before we hunker down for winter. And so it's important to have a place for everything and everything in its place. And with this second new moon encouraging us to go within, as the new moons do, it's encouraging us to take stock of our inner world, of our inner resources, especially the nervous system, right? Virgo rules the nervous system as well as the digestion. So if there's anything that's been overwhelming your nervous system, if there's anything that's just difficult for you to digest, and I'm speaking literally, food-wise, but also metaphorically, occurrences in the world, occurrences in your life, right? The ability to absorb those things. Virgo rules the small intestine in that way. So those are things that we want to eliminate, ideally, right? Minimize the stress, minimize the gastric upset, and find more purity, the thing that Virgo really strives for. So this is a main theme. We also have, as this is happening, Saturn and Neptune on the opposite side of this moon-sun conjunction, right, the eclipse or the new moon, off by just 2 degrees in the case of Neptune. No, excuse me, just 1 degree, and also another degree on the other side, Saturn. So just 1 degree off of Saturn, 1 degree off of Neptune, we have this opposition with the solar eclipse that we're having come up in just a few days. So this energy of Saturn and Neptune and their conjunction that we talked about is already rife right now, but it's different. It's unique. Yes, Neptune is still in Aries and will be for a few more weeks, but it's retrograding. And it's retrograding near Ceres, the goddess asteroid of nurturance and the harvest. So there's more energy of the harvest. Ceres is moving through Aries. So we're being called and challenged, tasked to see where we need to nurture ourselves by being more ourself, by pioneering more for ourself, right? The way that Aries is an advocate for the self, we can say. And so there's nurturance for the self that wants to happen by following our own path. And then there's the compassion and the dreaminess and the disillusion of Neptune. And so we can hear disillusion and think it's a bad thing, it's negative. But disillusion can also liberate us from illusions, right? And dissolving the illusions so that we can be grounded in reality and therefore actually manifest the desired whatever it is, right? Which, of course, Saturn is encouraging us to do. But with Saturn finishing up its last degrees in Pisces for the next 30 years, it's challenging us to do so in a way where we are actually cutting rid of all of the illusions and the denial and the delulu fantasies that we tell ourselves to be able to cope, and replace them with grounded, cold, hard facts that will get us to where we want to go. So these are some of the main themes we have. We also have Mars at its last degree of Libra, with Mercury also in the sign of Libra, earlier degrees. And so we have this theme for the next 6 to 18 months as eclipse cycles foretell, of relationships, of communicating our bottom lines, our boundaries, our needs, all the kinds of Virgo things, but doing so in a way that's diplomatic, doing so in a way that's fair and that holds harmony. But the complication there is that Mars is at the late degrees of Libra. So we can have this tendency to not advocate for the self as much as we need to, perhaps put more emphasis on the other, because Mars in Libra has that tendency to desire more what the other wants rather than what the self wants, right? That's a Mars in Libra pitfall. However, can increase our sense of diplomacy with everything going on in the world right now. That is probably good news, certainly maybe needed more so now than ever before. And then we have a couple other major things happening. Uranus is still retrograde in Gemini. Jupiter is still exalted in the sign of Cancer. So there's a lot of information and truth that wants to come out, and a lot of emotional support that's actually even there for us as we move through this. But we have to get honest with ourselves. And Gemini is the sign of duplicity. It's the sign of truth, but it's also the sign of lies. And that's the nature of duality, right? There's kind of always two sides of that coin whenever we're dealing with things. So with Gemini retrograding through, Uranus retrograding through Gemini, it's going to go back into Taurus. We're going to finish up the last degrees of Taurus, and anything that needs to be shaken up to our physical foundations so that we can get into the mental and informational space of truth, right? So if we're lying to ourselves about anything, this eclipse is going to bring it up to the surface so that it can be released, especially over the next 6 months for those things that are a bit harder, that we might have more attachments to, and really believe those lies. So Jupiter in Cancer is encouraging emotional healing, even shadow work. You know, you got to feel it to heal it. So whatever we're feeling over the next 9 months with Jupiter in Cancer, now's the time. Now is the time to go in deep and to uncover whatever emotional content there is under that surface, so that we can clear out those emotional waters and find lighter freedom and more space, more emotional space and flow in our inner reality, because freedom is coming, freedom is here. But this is like a little bit of intuitive information here. Freedom isn't free, right? You hear that a lot. I mean, and this, of course, also the difference between freedom and liberty. But there is a freedom that comes with discipline. For example, right, with Gemini, it's a perfect example, especially with Uranus, the awakener and the liberator, moving through the sign of Gemini. When we utilize our mind, when we master our mind, that's how we access freedom. Versus if we are a slave to our mind and all of its musings, ramblings, triggers, then we become more easily taken over by the matrix, by the hive mind, by the algorithms, whatever it is, right? So the real question here is of mental sovereignty. There's emotional sovereignty and freedom, but the mental sovereignty, that's the key. And it's the thing that's under most duress and perhaps, infiltration. But if it's also the thing that we have the most control over, because we have total free will over the thoughts that we entertain and continue to entertain in our mind. So thank you so much for tuning in to this very first astrology clinic. And I expect to be doing these more frequently. So feel free to keep tuning in. And happy eclipse season, happy Virgo, and to our highest possible timelines. Remember that between the first and last eclipse of the season, it's like an eclipse portal, where the following 6 to 18 months will manifest as a holographic fractal or reflection of that micro period of 2 weeks. So we have just a few more days to get the highest intentions for our greatest timelines really solid and sorted. And while the eclipse is happening, that is the best time to hold those intentions, to see them manifest forward and beyond. So more soon. Many blessings.